So last video, I explained how dopamine detoxing changed my life. And I told exactly my story and what I was sort of going through. This video isn't really talking about the story. If you want to see the story, you can check that video out and see how exactly dopamine detoxing changed my life. This is specifically the plan and exactly what I did during that period, the exact dopamine detox plan that I followed, which got me those results. And so this is going to be basically just step by step, the exact steps that you need to go through that I went through that basically changed my life and fixed me up from all the bullshit I was going through. So step 0 is basically just kind of getting you prepared for this video, because last video I talked in a very soft manner where I sort of told you that you could just try it and that, you don't really have to follow it for the rest of your life. You just gotta try it for 2 weeks, and if you like it, then you can sort of stick to it. Now that a couple of weeks have passed on me posting that video, I somewhat don't agree with what I said, because I think that following it now and sort of seeing how much my life has continued to change, I encourage you to not only follow this for 2 weeks, but genuinely have the mindset to follow this for the rest of your life, for as long as possible. Because following this dopamine detox will tremendously change your life. Not only will you have better focus, not only will you have better standards for yourself, not only will this set you up to, have better goal setting, set you up and basically free from all the bad habits, set you up with good habits, basically put you in the most perfect circumstances for basically pursuing your direction or even finding your direction if you don't know what your direction is. And so I'm simply encouraging you to have this as the baseline of your life. Think of dopamine detoxing as the main goal that you sort of opt for, the main thing that you focus on in your days, that you just simply want to focus on having good dopamine levels. Because when you have good dopamine levels, you don't feel like shit. And when you're not depressed, when you're not feeling anxious, when you're not feeling all these different emotional states, you're actually going to get a lot more done with your life and you're going to be happier with your life. And so why wouldn't you want to do that? Now, saying it is obviously just sort of easier said than done, because obviously saying it means that you have to follow what I say in this video. It means that if I tell you delete social media, you have to fucking delete it. If you want to follow this video and actually get the benefit, you have to do the things in this video, and not just one of them, not just 2 of them. You have to do all of them. And so if you're not ready to do that, then perhaps this video isn't for you. Perhaps this entire dopamine detox plan isn't for you. You're not going to get the results if you don't do the work. And so you have to understand that if you want all those results, if you want to change your life, you have to do these things. There is no one thing that you can skip that's not really going to affect your dopamine. All these things are wrecking your dopamine. And so if you're going to skip one of those things, or if you're, sort of considering not really following along, then this video won't really benefit you. So enough of the tangent. Step number 1, remove all the bad habits. Yes, you saw it coming. You have to remove all the bad habits. This is a non-negotiable. And this is your step number 1. If you want to make any progress in dopamine detoxing, you have to remove all the habits that are wrecking your dopamine. That means social media, Instagram, YouTube, all these different social medias. You remove them from your phone. And obviously, I'm going to explain with the basic attack the different things that we will be replacing these bad habits with. So for now, just understand that we don't want YouTube or Instagram or any of these socials on our phone. Remove all these socials. Remove any video games. If you play video games, if you have video games on your phone, if you have a PlayStation, you have to remove the junk food. You have to remove the porn if you watch any porn. You have to stop watching anime. You have to stop watching series. You have to stop watching movies, because all these things are cancer for dopamine. And so if you want to have good dopamine levels, these things have got to go. And obviously, we will go on and explain what we will be replacing these things with so that we don't end up rebounding to them. But do make sure that you remove all the other habits I talked about. Yes, all of them. There is no Snapchat has to stay. There is no Instagram has to stay. There is no this certain video game is okay. 1 hour of video games is fine. You have to remove all of them. because even 1 second on these platforms is cancer. It is not good for your fucking dopamine. And so I know this is extreme. I know you don't want to do it, but you have to fucking do it. Delete those games on the PlayStation, delete the games on the phone, delete all the social media platforms off the phone. Just fucking like remove everything, dude. Remove all these things because it's going to be fucking better for you. And obviously for the sites and all this like pornography or whatever, you don't have to like have blockers for them, but just don't fucking open them. Like just stop yourself from fucking open them. Same for the anime or like the series, like, you know, all that stuff. I know there's one that you're really coping with. There's one right now, which you could probably, like you have right now in your head, that you're thinking, I don't want to remove this specific habit. But trust me, this specific habit that you have in your head is the one you're the most addicted to. And so just trust me with this. Remove all these habits. You'll be grateful for them. Just trust me with this. And so once you have removed all of the bad habits, you can move on to step 2, replacing them with good habits. So Ali Abdaal talks about this concept of basic attacks, where basically if we sort of like, we have this like basic attack and we have like this special attack. The basic attack is basically the attack that you can perform anytime without like the energy or the stamina being there. So basically, the basic attack is like us performing the habits that we do. And so for most of our lives, we've sort of had these bad habits as our basic attack. And so we would basically just end up, whenever we're bored or we have like time and we sort of don't know what to do with the time, these are the first things that we sort of jump to. These are our basic attacks. So we start playing video games, whatever the bad habit is for you. Like you play video games or you watch anime or you know, like whatever the bad habit is, right? And basically what we want to do is, since we removed the bad habit, we are no longer going to watch the anime. We're going to do something else. What are we going to fucking do? There's a ton of habits that I sort of have for when your schedule is all empty and when you sort of have removed the bad habit, but you really don't know what to do. So first, and one of the most important habits, and these are habits that will basically improve your dopamine. So these aren't just any habits, but these are habits that will improve you and your dopamine, and these will help you to either find direction or, you know, basically just improve you. They're self-improvement habits, and they're some of the best habits that you can do. These aren't like some fluff habits. These genuinely are really important. So the first habit is basically meditation, but not just any meditation, mindfulness meditation. So basically mindfulness meditation is when you sort of sit there and you close your eyes and you focus on your breath. And the entire point of mindfulness meditation is basically for you to learn how to focus on a singular thing. It is to enhance your focus. And because it feels really boring when you do it, you sort of get a dopamine dip. But then once you're done with sort of doing the habit, you get a dopamine boost. You get a dopamine like sort of spike, but it's actually a lasting spike. It's not like an unhealthy spike that you get when you do a bad habit. And so it basically raises your baseline of dopamine, which is pretty freaking cool. And so obviously this also trains you how to focus, and it's really important if you want to learn how to focus that you sort of do mindfulness meditation. And so I'll have a more in-depth guide for how to basically meditate, but to keep things simple, you close your eyes, and for about 10 minutes, you basically sit there and you just focus on your breath, your inhales and your exhales. And you'll realize that you're sort of lost your focus on your breath, that you sort of got distracted. You simply just refocus. That's literally all you got to do. And you do it for 10 minutes, the alarm rings, whatever, you just stop. That's basically you've meditated. Habit number 2 is journaling. And so journaling is when you sit there and you sort of think about certain things that you ask yourself. And journaling can oftentimes be used for different things. So sometimes you will journal to find direction. Sometimes you will journal to just kind of rant because you just want to rant out. Sometimes you will journal to make a decision. And so journaling is really important. It's one of those habits that I wish everyone did because it would definitely change society. And so obviously like most people are like, they have like unresolved traumas. They don't even know who they are. They don't even know what they want in life. They don't know what sort of goals, like they just sort of set random goals. They have no direction in life. And so journaling helps you find your direction. Journaling helps you find your purpose, your direction that you want to sort of go in. It helps you to, learn a lot of things about yourself, and also just helps you to unpack a whole bunch of fucking trauma that is affecting you, and basically you sort of free yourself from the true root cause of why you do the bad habits, which essentially is just like a whole bunch of unresolved traumas. When you really break down why you do bad habits, you just do the bad habits to mask over the feeling that you feel when you basically are doing nothing. And, oftentimes it'll be like some sort of depression or anxiety, which you sort of mask using these habits. And oftentimes it's like because, I don't know, your mother neglected you when you were a young kid or something. Journaling is really deep and also just sort of invokes this kind of feeling where you feel really, not only do you get a whole bunch of realizations whilst you're journaling, but when you're done, you also get like this sort of sense of relief that you finally got this thing basically done. So the third habit is reading books. And obviously it doesn't have to be physical books. It could also just be PDFs that you sort of download on your phone and you read. It doesn't have to be an actual physical book, but reading books is really important. Obviously don't read any books. Read books that are actually aligned to you, that you actually want to read, that you enjoy reading. And you don't have to finish books. Don't think of books as just like the way that you were taught in school where you have to if you start with a book, you read it from start to finish. Read books, just sort of stroll through it. Kind of like how you would stroll through YouTube and you sort of pick a YouTube video. Just stroll through it and genuinely just take what you want from the book and then just basically throw it. You don't have to fucking read the entire thing. So reading books is really nice, and you obviously could sit there and do it for hours on end because it's really fucking entertaining. At least for, once you get regulated and you actually have decent dopamine levels, you'll start to really enjoy it. And another way that you could sort of do this is actually by watching educational podcasts, sort of educational long YouTube videos. So 30 minutes plus sort of YouTube videos that are actually educational, not just random, Joe Rogan with whatever actor talking about life, actually something that's meaningful and that's educational. And obviously there's a ton of different people I recommend. I recommend people watch Hamza. I recommend people watch Andrew Huberman. If you want science sort of, stuff, it's really valuable. Alex Hormozy, when it comes to money, there's a whole bunch of different guys that I recommend for different certain things, certain different areas of life. But in general, start with Andrew Huberman, start with these. Chris Williamson, he brings on a lot of cool people. Obviously, stick to the point of educational because sometimes you'll find clips and random stuff. Don't click on the clips, just click on, stick to the longs. And this will be the main habit that you'll sort of be rocking most of the time. It's either this or reading. You'll sort of do this hours on end. And it's basically just learning. This is you setting time aside to basically just learn. The fifth habit is exercise, and specifically just going to the gym because, especially weight training and sort of going to the gym, it is one of those habits that can really freaking help you to just relieve yourself. I've actually found that I even mask some of my childhood trauma with the gym, which is kind of it genuinely became a problem at this point for me. But exercise is really important, and especially weight training, getting strong, getting fit, building the dream physique. It's one of those things that will help you in basically every area of your life. Getting big and building yourself a good physique will help you in every area of life. You don't even fucking know. And, the halo effect where people treat you based on how you look. If you're beefed up and you're really jacked and you don't have a skinny neck, people will just naturally treat you in a very different way than if you had those things. And so the gym will help with that. Obviously, you don't have to spend hours on end there. You could literally just spend 2 hours, or 1 hour, and it'd probably be enough. It doesn't have to be weight training. You could also just do cardio or do any sort of training that you like. You could even do martial arts if that's your thing, Just do this sort of exercise that you enjoy. But you see, this won't really work unless we have a system, which is why we'll be moving on to step number 3. Systemize all of it. The reason why we need to have a system is because oftentimes we will just sort of say that we want to do these things, but we'll just go back to the old habits. That's just the way we are. Well, if we don't have a system to ensure that we will stick to these good habits that we have decided, then we will just go back to the same basic attack that we've basically had for years. We will basically go back to the same anime or, the series or music or whatever it might be we use to basically kill time. And so we have to put this into a system so that we actually follow it. And that's where Google Calendar comes in. So basically you could sort of map out exactly hour by hour what you'll be doing, like basically day to day. And so what you will do is you'll basically have a routine. And having a routine is basically just like saying, I will do this habit at this time, and specifically having a series of habits that go on. That's like what a routine is. It's basically just a series of habits. And so this is the most extreme sort of version of this, but this is perhaps the most important thing. If you're going to take away anything from this video, it is to have a routine, because having the routine is the most important thing. It is like the highest level of time management. And so make sure you set the time for each one of these habits that we mentioned. You'll obviously have a lot of spaces. The way you sort of do this is you start with sleep, the time you sleep, the time you wake up, and preferably you have fixed times for when you sleep and when you wake up. And then obviously you'll sort of map out like your different meals, like when you eat. You'll map out, like specifically, like let's say you go to the bathroom as soon as you wake up. You map that out, like all these different things, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but you just sort of have to nail in these certain different things that occur. Try and be as accurate as possible. And then obviously map out certain things that you must do. For example, you go to school, you go to work, you have university, whatever. Map these things out on the Google Calendar. And then whatever spaces you have, you'll basically start to fill with these different habits. You'll add in the 15 minutes of meditation or 10 minutes of meditation. You'll add in, let's say, an hour of journaling a day. Let's say you add in like 2 hours for the gym. You add in 1 hour of martial arts if that's your thing. And you add in the whole bunch of reading or educational podcasts. And then you create this big routine that you will follow with your day. And that way you ensure that you hit all the habits that you said you would. You ensure that you don't go back and do all those bad habits. And basically you just created the perfect atmosphere for yourself to stick to the routine. You created the system that will help you to stick to the routine. One final note I'll leave this step with is don't leave any empty space, because any empty space you leave, you'll probably go back to the bad habit in that exact time. And so make sure that every single second is occupied by, one of these habits so that you don't end up having free time, which you end up doing the bad habit in. So once this is done, we move on to step number 4, which is sticking to the routine. This is the most critical part of this video, because if you just redesign the routine and you say you're going to follow it, but you don't, everything goes to waste. This is the most important part, because you have to actually follow the routine in order to get the results. If you create the calendar and you say that you're going to follow it, but you don't actually follow it, you're going to basically end up having the same day that you have every single day. And you're basically just going to reinstall those apps, you're going to reinstall the video games, and you're going to end up going back to them. And so to ensure that you don't do that, you need to actually stick to the routine. You might ask me, how do you actually stick to the routine? And it's quite simple. You just have to keep it in your face and remind yourself that I am on this routine now. I am on this dopamine detox now. What I do is I have on my wall, I could probably show you this, but on my wall, I actually have a whole bunch of papers where I've written out the exact plan, and I keep it in my face, like 24/7. I'm just in my room and I see this dopamine and like all this, avoid these and do these instead. And the other way I do this is I keep Google Calendar open on my phone. So whenever I'm sort of like I have the phone as it is, I keep Google Calendar open and I close the phone. So when I open the phone and I unlock it, the first thing that's in my face is my routine. So I actually get to stick to it. Like the first thing I see is it, and I have to do this now. And so obviously if you start to get past your bedtime and you start doing all these different things, you could sort of use different features like downtime and all this shit, and you sort of place it at a specific time so you sort of understand that I shouldn't be using my phone right now. I should probably just sleep and all this different stuff. But this is sort of more in-depth sort of kind of stuff. The main idea is do what you must, do everything in your power to basically stick to the routine, because this is the most important thing. If you don't stick to the routine, you haven't, we're basically doing nothing. This isn't even a dopamine detox. Dopamine detoxing has really changed my life. It has brought me from a very dark time in my life to now, basically making some of the best decisions and, being able to think straight, being happy with my life finally for once after sort of doing this. You will see these results that I saw by following this. This period you'll probably have a lot of nostalgia for, because that's just sort of the nature of it. You sort of you'll think back and you'll be like, oh man, I used to be in this really sucky period. And now once I did this dopamine detox, I just kind of got out of it. And so this will be a period that you'll remember, and you'll be grateful for yourself for, doing this right now. If you're interested in getting one-to-one help, where I personally help you with your dopamine detox, with your fitness, with whatever goals that you have. I have coaching calls where I basically help you out one-on-one. And so if you're interested, you could basically DM me on Instagram. And as long as you commit to the work, you'll be getting your results.